I always thought James and I had the perfect marriage. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and got married right after graduation. For years, it seemed like nothing could come between us. But lately, something had changed. James had been acting strange, more secretive and distant. It was a chilly Friday evening when I first noticed it. James had come home late again, offering the same excuse about work meetings running long. As he headed to the shower, he left his phone on the kitchen counter. Something inside me urged me to pick it up. I had never felt the need to snoop before. But tonight was different. I unlocked his phone, my hands shaking. There it was, a message from a number saved as work. It read, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." My heart pounded in my chest. Who was this person? And what had James been doing last night? Just then, James walked back into the kitchen. I quickly put his phone down, but he saw the look on my face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked, trying to sound casual. I took a deep breath. "Who is this?" I showed him the message. His face turned pale. "It's just a work thing," he stammered. "Nothing serious." "A work thing? Really?" I felt my anger rising. "Don't lie to me, James. Who is she?" James looked down, avoiding my eyes. "Her name is Lisa. She works in my department." "How long has this been going on?" I demanded, tears welling up in my eyes. He sighed. "A few months." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A few months? And you didn't think to tell me? You just let me believe everything was fine." "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't know how to tell you. I never wanted to hurt you," he said, reaching out to touch my hand. I pulled away. "You already did, James. I need some time to think." I walked out of the kitchen, feeling a mix of betrayal and heartbreak. That night, I barely slept. My mind was racing with thoughts of James and this woman, Lisa. How could he do this to me? To us? The next morning, I packed a small bag and decided to stay with Emily for a while. Emily had been my best friend since high school. She knew me better than anyone, and I needed her support now more than ever. "Emily, can I stay with you for a bit?" I asked when she opened the door. "Of course, Sarah." "Come in," she said, giving me a warm hug. "What happened?" I broke down in tears, telling her everything. Emily listened patiently, her expression growing more concerned with each word. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," she said when I finished. "You don't deserve this." "I don't know what to do," I admitted, wiping my tears away. Part of me wants to leave him, but another part of me still loves him. "It's okay to feel that way," Emily said softly. "You don't have to make any decisions right now. Just take your time and figure out what's best for you." Emily's words were comforting. I knew I had a long road ahead, but for now, being with her was exactly what I needed. That evening, as we sat on the couch with mugs of tea, Emily looked at me and said, "You're stronger than you think, Sarah. You'll get through this." I nodded, trying to believe her. Deep down, I knew she was right. This was just the beginning of my journey to uncover the truth and find myself again. The days at Emily's house passed slowly. Every morning I woke up hoping it was all just a bad dream. But the reality hit me hard every time I opened my eyes. I couldn't hide forever. I needed answers. I needed to confront James. One evening, I gathered all my courage and decided to go back home. As I walked through the front door, the familiar scent of our house overwhelmed me with memories, both good and bad. James was sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the TV. He turned off the TV when he saw me, his face a mixture of relief and guilt. "Sarah," he started, standing up, "I'm glad you're home." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "We need to talk, James." He nodded, looking defeated. "I know." We sat down at the kitchen table, the place where so many of our conversations had started. But this time it felt different. There was a heavy weight in the air, a sense of finality. Why, James? Why did you do it? I asked, my voice trembling. He looked down at his hands, avoiding my gaze. I don't know, Sarah. I was stupid. I felt lost. Work was stressful, and I started spending more time with Lisa. It just happened. It just happened. I repeated, feeling a surge of anger. You don't just fall into an affair, James. You made a choice. You chose to betray me. I know, he said quietly. I know I messed up. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said, my voice breaking. You hurt me more than you can imagine. James finally looked up, his eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry, Sarah. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to make things right. I want to fix this. How can you fix this? I asked, tears streaming down my face. How can I ever trust you again? I'll do whatever it takes, he pleaded. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. I love you, Sarah. I don't want to lose you. His words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. I had loved James for so long. But could I really move past this betrayal? I need time, James, I said finally. I need time to think and figure out what I want. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight. I understand, he said softly. Take all the time you need. I'll be here waiting. As I stood up to leave, James reached out and gently touched my hand. Please know that I'm truly sorry, Sarah. I love you. I pulled my hand away, feeling a pang of sadness. I loved you too, James. But right now, I'm not sure that's enough. I left the house, the door closing behind me with a sense of finality. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I needed to focus on myself and what I wanted. This confrontation had been painful, but it was also the first step towards healing and finding my own path forward. Staying with Emily gave me a sense of comfort I hadn't felt in days. Her home was warm and inviting, filled with the smell of freshly baked cookies and the sound of soft music. It was the perfect place to start healing. One morning, Emily and I sat on her porch with steaming cups of coffee. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the garden. How are you feeling today? Emily asked, her voice gentle. I sighed, staring into my cup. I don't know, Emily. Some days I feel like I can handle this, and other days, it's just too much. Emily reached over and squeezed my hand. It's okay to feel that way. This is a huge thing to go through. But remember, you don't have to go through it alone. I nodded, grateful for her support. I just feel so lost. I gave so much of myself to James, and now I don't know who I am without him. Well, Emily said with a smile, this is the perfect time to find out. Why don't you start by doing things you love? Things that make you happy. I thought about it. It had been so long since I focused on myself. I used to love painting, I said slowly. But I haven't picked up a brush in years. Emily's eyes lit up. That's a great start. Why don't you set up a little studio here? I have plenty of space, and I'd love to see your work. A flicker of excitement sparked within me. You know, I think I will. Thank you, Emily. This means a lot. Over the next few days, I transformed a corner of Emily's sunroom into my art space. I bought new paints, brushes, and canvases, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of purpose. One afternoon, as I was lost in a painting, Emily walked in with 2 cups of tea. That looks amazing, Sarah, she said, admiring my work. Thanks, I replied, feeling a blush rise to my cheeks. It feels good to create again. Emily handed me a cup and sat down. I'm proud of you, Sarah. You're taking steps to find yourself again, and that's so important. Thanks, Emily. I couldn't have done it without you. We sipped our tea in comfortable silence, the sun warming our faces. It was in these quiet moments that I found the strength to move forward. Painting became my therapy. each stroke of the brush helping to heal the wounds in my heart. As the days turned into weeks, I started to feel more like myself. I even began to look forward to my future, whatever it might hold. One evening, Emily and I sat on the porch again, watching the sunset. "I've been thinking," I said, breaking the silence. "Maybe it's time I went back home. I need to face my life and figure out what's next." Emily nodded, her eyes kind. "I think that's a great idea. You've made so much progress, Sarah. You're stronger than you know." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace. "Thank you, Emily, for everything." "Any time, my friend," she replied, giving me a hug. "And remember, no matter what happens, you have people who love you and will always be here for you." As I packed my bags the next morning, I felt a mixture of sadness and hope. Leaving Emily's house was bittersweet, but I knew it was time to take the next step in my journey. With a heart full of gratitude and a newfound sense of self, I headed back to face whatever lay ahead. Returning home felt different this time. The house, once a place of warmth and love, now seemed like an empty shell. But I was determined to fill it with new memories, new experiences, and a new sense of self. The first thing I did was focus on my career. I had always been passionate about marketing, but I had let my job take a backseat to my marriage. Now it was time to dive back in. I called my boss, Karen, to discuss taking on more responsibilities. "Karen, I'd like to talk about my role," I said nervously. "I want to take on more projects and really contribute to the team." Karen sounded pleased. "That's great to hear, Sarah. I've always believed in your potential. How about we start with the upcoming campaign for our new product line?" "That sounds perfect," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. With a renewed focus on work, I started to regain my confidence. I spent my days immersed in projects and brainstorming sessions, feeling a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. But it wasn't just work that needed my attention. I needed to rebuild my personal life too. One weekend, I decided to redecorate the house. I wanted it to reflect the new me, the person I was becoming. I picked out bright, cheerful colors and new furniture that made me feel happy. As I painted the living room a sunny yellow, I felt like I was painting over the sadness, filling the space with light and hope. One afternoon, while I was at the hardware store picking out supplies, I bumped into an old friend, Laura. We hadn't seen each other in years. "Sarah, is that you?" she exclaimed, her face lighting up with a smile. "Laura, it's been so long," I said, giving her a hug. "How have you been?" "I'm good, just busy with the kids and work. What about you? How's life?" I hesitated for a moment, then decided to be honest. "It's been tough, Laura. James and I are going through a rough patch. But I'm working on myself and things are getting better." She looked at me with understanding. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. Let's catch up over coffee soon. It sounds like we both could use a friend right now." "That sounds great," I said, feeling a warmth spread through me. Meeting up with Laura became a regular thing. We'd sit in a cozy cafe, chatting for hours about everything and nothing. It was comforting to reconnect with an old friend and to share my journey with someone who cared. One evening, after a long day at work, I decided to take a walk through the park near my house. The air was crisp, and the leaves were just starting to turn. As I strolled along the path, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. Just as I was about to head home, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sarah, is that you?" I turned around to see Jack, a former colleague I hadn't seen in years. He looked just as I remembered, with his warm smile and kind eyes. "Jack, what are you doing here?" I asked, surprised and happy to see him. "I moved back to town a few months ago. What about you? How's life treating you?" I smiled, feeling a strange sense of fate. It's been a journey, but I'm finding my way. We walked together, catching up on old times and sharing our recent experiences. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the park, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the changes in my life. I was working hard, reconnecting with old friends, and even meeting new people. It wasn't easy, but I was building a new beginning, one step at a time. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. Life had started to feel normal again. My work at the marketing firm was fulfilling, and my house had become a reflection of my newfound independence. On a crisp Saturday morning, I decided to attend a work conference in the city. It was a chance to learn, network, and maybe find a bit more inspiration for my projects. The conference was bustling with energy, filled with professionals eager to share ideas and make connections. I wandered through the exhibition hall, picking up pamphlets and chatting with a few vendors. As I moved towards the coffee station, I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Sarah? Sarah Williams?" a voice said. I turned around to see a tall, handsome man with a warm smile. It took me a moment to recognize him. Jack. Jack Harper. "I can't believe it's you." Jack had been a colleague years ago, back when I first started at the firm. We had always gotten along well, but we lost touch when he moved to a different city for work. "It's been too long," he said, giving me a friendly hug. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the conference. I've been working on a new campaign and thought this would be a great place to get some fresh ideas," I replied. "Same here," Jack said, grabbing a cup of coffee. "Let's catch up. There's a quiet spot over there." We found a corner with comfortable chairs and started talking. It was as if no time had passed at all. Jack shared stories about his work, his travels, and the new projects he was excited about. I told him about my recent struggles and the journey I had been on to rediscover myself. "I'm really sorry to hear about what you've been through, Sarah," Jack said, his eyes full of empathy. Life seemed to be moving at an exhilarating pace. Work was rewarding, and my budding friendship with Jack brought a sense of joy I hadn't felt in a long time. But amid this new chapter, there was still unfinished business with James. One evening, as I was getting ready to meet Jack for dinner, my phone rang. It was James. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen before I answered. "Hi, James," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sarah, I need to see you. Can we meet?" He asked, his voice sounding more vulnerable than I remembered. "Okay, let's meet at the park," I replied, feeling a knot form in my stomach. We met the next day under a large oak tree, the same spot where we had shared so many happy moments. James looked tired, his face etched with worry. "Sarah, I miss you. I've been going to therapy and working on myself," he began. "I know I messed up, but I want another chance. I love you." Hearing those words brought back a flood of memories, both good and bad. "James, it's not that simple. You broke my trust. I don't know if we can get back to what we had." "I understand," he said softly, "but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. Can you at least think about it?" I nodded, feeling conflicted. "I need time, James. A lot has changed." As I walked away, I felt torn between two worlds. On one side was James, the man I had loved for so long, who was now showing a genuine desire to change. On the other side was Jack, who brought new excitement and possibilities into my life. Later that evening, I met Jack for dinner at a cozy little restaurant. He greeted me with a warm smile and a hug. "You seem a bit off. Everything okay?" he asked, concern in his eyes. "I met with James today," I admitted, stirring my drink nervously. "He wants to try again. He says he's changed." Jack looked thoughtful, then reached across the table to hold my hand. "How do you feel about it?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Part of me will always love him, but I don't know if I can trust him again. And then there's you. Being with you makes me happy." Jack squeezed my hand gently. I understand. This is a lot to process. Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what you decide. His words brought me comfort, but they also intensified my confusion. I was torn between the familiarity of my past and the promise of a new future. Over the next few weeks, I tried to sort out my feelings. I spent time with both James and Jack, hoping to find clarity. One afternoon, while having coffee with Emily, I poured out my heart. I feel like I'm being pulled in two directions, I said, feeling frustrated. James is trying so hard, and part of me wants to give him another chance. But then there's Jack. He makes me feel alive again. Emily listened, then offered her advice. Sarah, you need to think about what makes you truly happy. Not just comfortable, but genuinely happy. You deserve that. Her words stayed with me. I realized that I needed to make a decision not based on guilt or obligation, but on what was best for my own happiness and growth. One evening, as I sat alone in my newly decorated living room, I thought about my journey over the past few months. I had faced betrayal, rediscovered my passions, and reconnected with old friends. I had grown stronger and more independent. I knew I had to be honest with both James and Jack, and most importantly, with myself. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was the only way to move forward. The next day, I met with James first. We sat on the same park bench, the autumn leaves falling around us. James, I care about you, and I always will. But I need to move forward with my life. I can't go back to the way things were, I said, feeling a sense of peace with my words. He looked heartbroken but nodded. I understand, Sarah. I just want you to be happy. Later, I met Jack at our favourite cafe. I took a deep breath before speaking. Jack, I've made a decision. I want to be with you. You make me feel hopeful and excited about the future, I said, smiling through my nervousness. Jack's face lit up with relief and joy. I'm so glad to hear that, Sarah. I promise to do everything I can to make you happy. As we walked out of the cafe hand in hand, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had chosen the path that felt right for me. And for the first time in a long while, I felt truly free. The decision to be with Jack was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I felt lighter, like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Each day was a step forward, filled with hope and new beginnings. Jack and I spent more time together, exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and enjoying each other's company. One sunny Saturday, we decided to take a day trip to a nearby town known for its beautiful hiking trails and quaint shops. As we hiked up a scenic trail, the view of the rolling hills and the distant town was breathtaking. We reached a spot with a perfect view and sat down on a large rock to catch our breath. This place is amazing, I said, looking around. I can't believe I've never been here before. Jack smiled. I thought you'd like it. I wanted to show you one of my favourite places. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just taking in the beauty around us. Then Jack turned to me, his expression serious. Sarah, I want you to know how much you mean to me. These past few months have been incredible, and I can't imagine my life without you, he said, taking my hand in his. I felt my heart swell with emotion. I feel the same way, Jack. You've brought so much joy into my life. I'm excited about our future together. He squeezed my hand, his eyes full of warmth. Let's make a promise to always communicate and support each other. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. Absolutely, I agreed, feeling a sense of deep connection with him. Together, we can handle anything. As we made our way back down the trail, I felt a sense of peace and happiness. Life was full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace them all. Back in the city, I continued to thrive at work. My boss, Karen, was impressed with the new campaign I had developed, and I was given more responsibilities and a small team to lead. One day, as I was working late in the office, Karen stopped by my desk. Sarah, You've done an outstanding job with this campaign. I see a lot of potential in you, and I want to offer you a promotion to Senior Marketing Manager. I was stunned and overjoyed. Thank you so much, Karen. This means a lot to me. You've earned it, Sarah. Keep up the great work, she said, giving me a supportive pat on the back. I couldn't wait to share the news with Jack. That evening, we celebrated with a special dinner at our favourite restaurant. As we toasted to my promotion, I felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. I had come so far from the woman who was broken and lost. One evening, while we were relaxing on the couch, Jack turned to me with a thoughtful look. Sarah, I've been thinking. How would you feel about moving in together? I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'd love to. The following weeks were a whirlwind of packing, moving, and setting up our new home. It felt like a fresh start, a new adventure we were embarking on together. We made the space our own, blending our styles and creating a place that felt like home. One weekend, as we were unpacking boxes, Jack found an old photo album of mine. We sat down and flipped through the pages, laughing at the memories and stories behind each picture. You've had quite an interesting life, Sarah, Jack said, looking at a photo of me from college. I'm glad I get to be a part of it now. And I'm glad you're here, I replied, feeling a deep sense of contentment. As we settled into our new life together, I felt a sense of excitement for the future. We had plans to travel, explore new hobbies, and support each other's dreams. The journey ahead was unknown, but I was ready to face it with Jack by my side. Life had its ups and downs, but I had learned to embrace the moments of joy and navigate the challenges with grace and resilience. With Jack, I felt strong, loved, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. And as we sat on the porch of our new home, watching the sunset, I knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful and fulfilling chapter in our lives. Together, we were ready to embrace the future, hand in hand, with hearts full of hope and love.